Jazz here from Jazz Real Estate. Welcome to another episode of Jazz TV show. Here with none other than Shaniya from Conveyancing Hub. Shaniya, welcome to the show
Thank you
again.
so much for having me, Jazz. Appreciate
Becoming
it.
regular, isn't
I know,
it?
I love it.
Yes, it's beautiful. And the value that you give to our clients is absolutely amazing.
Appreciate it.
Let's jump straight into it.
Yeah,
Now,
100%.
obviously, a lot of people would know about us and obviously Shaniya. Shaniya, the ones who don't know about us, a bit of introduction, who you are, where you're from.
Yeah, 100%. So my name is Shaniya. I am the Associate Director and Licensed Conveyancer of Conveyancing Hub. We've been trading for over 15 years, specialising in sale purchases of domestic, residential, commercial, acreages, anything you can think of,
Yeah.
sale of business, transfers of lands between husband and wife, whatever it may be. We specialise in all of that. And we've been working alongside Jazz
Yes,
for
a lot of
times and a lot of
Yeah.
transactions.
Exactly. And
it's fantastic.
all the clients are super happy. And you know what? Big shout. We are super excited for the collaboration because whenever a vendor asks for someone reliable, we can't think of anyone else but Shaniya. So, yeah, hand on heart. If you are a seller looking to sell in the future, give them a call. The great people in business. So, yes. All right, let's kick start. Shaniya, what's happening in the market? What are you seeing?
Look, to be honest, I think the last 2 months in the market is very different to where it is now.
Yeah.
Personally, in my opinion, especially from a business perspective as
Yeah.
well, we felt that September was a huge month of
Okay.
sales. August and
Wow.
September, we felt the market was insane.
Okay.
Obviously, with conveyancing, we work 2 months in advance.
Yes, correct.
So whatever's been selling in June, July, it'll cop us in August, September.
Exactly.
So obviously, end of financial year, that was when a lot of things were happening.
Gotcha.
Maybe we had to spend more money to avoid tax, whatever it may be.
Yes.
So we felt that that was really busy. Coming towards end of September to early October where we are
Okay.
now,
Right.
the market seems to have shifted quite a lot. And I have been speaking to a few professionals in the industry.
Okay.
And they feel the same, that there is
Yeah.
so much stock
Yeah.
that vendors are ready to sell,
Right.
but the buyers don't want to buy.
Right, gotcha.
Potentially it could be because they want to wait till they find out what's happening with these interest
Yeah,
rates.
gotcha.
I guess we kind of can prospect that interest rates may fall in a
Yeah,
few months.
okay.
You might be waiting for that. But in my opinion, and I think
Yeah.
you would agree with me as well, we can't wait for those interest rates to drop
Absolutely.
because not only is the price going to increase, market's
Yes.
going to boom.
Correct.
Where you can secure a property now at a good price is now.
Exactly. And I think it comes down to the confidence level, that the point that you mentioned, that for the buyers, I always say, don't wait. Buy real estate and then wait. That's the number one thing I advise to everyone, because the fact that the stock levels in the market has always been like that. If I can talk about Point Cook, Tani, Truganina, on an average, I was recording the number of sales. Point Cook recorded about 1,800 plus sales in 2021.
Yeah, right.
1,829. 2022, we had 1,600 sales. 2023, we had about 1,500 sales. 2024, up until now, we're
Yeah.
sitting at about 900 sales. It has substantially
Yeah.
come down. Now, we can put it into perspective of, it's either the stock level has increased and the absorption rate is lower, or you can say the buyer confidence is lower, the market's there for selling the properties, or the vendors are stuck on a price and they're also not accepting offers. So it doesn't really mean, from a buyer's perspective, it does not mean if the sales have come down that the buyers have an upper edge.
I
Because
guess every buyer situation is different. I guess if it's
Yeah.
from a financial perspective,
Correct.
banks are being really hard right
Yeah,
now.
exactly.
A lot of buyers maybe don't want to spend. The cost of living has increased as well. So I think confidence probably is the biggest point
Exactly.
of why buyers don't want to come in.
correct.
Because the buyers who came in, 1 or 2 years ago, who locked in their
Correct.
interest rates at 2%, 2.4%,
Yeah.
they're laughing because
Exactly.
it's so much cheaper than what it is on a 4.8%. So there's so many
Exactly.
factors of why people may not be buying.
And I think that's spot on, because at the end of the day, when the dynamics of finances changes, unless you sit down and actually put the ink on the paper and say, okay, well, this is our expenditures in the home. If we buy a house, this is going to be our mortgage. Can we afford it? And many of the times, people would, on the upper level, just get scared and hold off a little bit. But many of them, when they sit down with a professional, they actually can afford, and it becomes a perfect time for them to buy.
100%.
Smarter ones are definitely buying right now. What we are seeing is with the houses, and it has come to our attention where we've seen houses when we go and appraise houses, the houses need a bit of love. Has been tenanted for say 7 years, and the house definitely needs liquor paint, perhaps carpets. Now, more than that, which is probably was more of a standard process in the area, where people would just go paint, carpet, staging. It has now become a lot more detailed that you actually have to look at your buyers. You look at what sort of buyers are you going to target.
Yeah.
If it's a family home and you're trying to target maybe a family of four, and this is going to be an upgrade, for an example, and if your floor plan and the house size and the land size allows, I would say do a few extra stuff in the home which would make them fall in love. Emotional connect right now,
100%.
super important.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. I got a phone call today. Someone's on the market. I looked it up online, and clearly I said the same thing to them. You have to do some works in the property. They were wanting to change agency because their agent could not sell the property, and I nicely said to them, look, it's not the agent's fault. If I take it on, I want to make sure that your home presents well, because if we take you on, we want to make sure you get an outcome. For us to get you an outcome, these are the things that are needed. Not saying that there's not a buyer out there who will buy a house as it is. They could, but do you want to gamble?
You're not subjecting the right buyers.
Correct.
If you want a good price for your home, the marketing of how that is done is
Correct.
so substantial.
Exactly.
Because if you don't market your property correctly,
Correct.
you're not going to attract certain buyers.
Absolutely.
Certain buyers may want to see how the house is laid out. How is the
Exactly.
styling laid out? How can I potentially lay it out? What frames can I hang up?
Correct.
You know, the color of the walls, the wallpaper, whatever it may be.
Exactly.
Those specific people you're targeting. So if you're not
Correct.
doing that,
Exactly.
you're potentially losing buyers and losing a sale.
And then the ones who are actually thinking about these things are the experienced buyers. Because generally you'll have a first home buyer, relatively less experienced. For them, more important thing is the purchase price.
Yep.
And to some extent, maybe presentation
Yep.
or maybe location.
Correct.
We've also seen some of the first home buyers in this market do end up buying a wrong property, in our opinion, sometimes, where they've come to our inspection, which is very close to schools and shops, but then for sake of saving $10,000, $15,000 on a 30 years loan, they'll go and buy a house which is 4 blocks away, where they have to walk 10 minutes to the shop, and then they feel satisfied because from them it's more of a money thing,
Yeah.
which is something that obviously important for them.
Yeah.
But then if you're trying to target a pool of buyers, presentation is certainly the key factor. If your house needs paint, get it done. If your house needs carpet, get it done. And then look at your lighting.
But those things that you are requesting, they're not a big financial
Correct.
deposition on the vendor. Because in my opinion, when I'm buying a property, I'm not going to want to see stained carpets.
Correct.
Your carpets and your walls are your outer foundations of a home. If they
Exactly.
are up to the scratch, they may not want to pick on certain things here and there
Exactly.
in the property.
Correct.
Your outer four walls,
Yes.
your base, if that's set,
Correct.
you're going to sell.
There's certain properties when I research online,
Yeah.
and you can tell they've presented super well.
Yeah.
You can clearly see that it's a rental property and it's been rented for last, let's say, 10 years.
Yeah.
There was one I was looking at last night, and I was like, geez, they've presented it really well. And it sold in about 5 days. Now, when I spoke to the buyer who ended up buying, they said, yes, it's not really upgraded, but neat and clean. We don't have to do anything. This is more of a first home, and then maybe in the next few years we'll buy something else. Psychologically, they didn't look at the kitchen small. To some degree it is. But again, at the same time, from their perspective, they're getting good value for money.
Correct.
So they've given that property first choice over the others.
Correct.
And then you're helping others to sell faster at a better price.
Exactly.
That's what I'm seeing in the market as well. And the overall trend in the market is that stock levels, like you said before, stock levels have increased. And looking at the trends right now, I reckon there'll be more stock on the market.
Yeah, 100% agree.
There'll be more stock on the market.
100%.
CoreLogic RP data suggests that appraisal volume from the agencies across Victoria has increased. Because when an agency has to do an appraisal, they'll have to generate reports from the CoreLogic portal.
Correct.
So they record how many appraisals the agents are doing or the agencies are doing.
Yeah.
and they know based on the ratio, based on the past few years, that to say 1,000 appraisals, there'll be X amount of listings coming next month and then next month. So they can predict that next few months there'll be more stock on the market.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, you have a finance arm as well in the business. A lot of people are still on low interest rates at the moment. And
Yeah.
they're going to variable in December as well.
I'll give you a prime example. My mother-in-law, she doesn't have a very big mortgage, but obviously she locked in for 5 years.
Okay.
She locked in, and I think CBA at the time were only doing that lock-in for
Okay.
5 years. And she had a fixed interest rate at 1.95%.
Wow.
So she's still sitting on that. So she's been on that interest rate for the past 4 years during
Wow.
COVID. She only locked it just before COVID.
Right.
So, and she's, a 60-year-old woman living by herself. I could only imagine what she would be feeling like if she
Yeah.
was on a 4.8% interest
Yes.
rate, paying potentially $3,000 or $4,000 of a
Correct, a
mortgage.
month.
How could you potentially carry that? So
Correct.
that is the issue, I guess, that's coming in the market. And people who have locked in those interest rates
Exactly.
are absolutely booming. They're so
Yes.
happy, but eventually that will run out. It will come out.
Exactly.
If your interest rate's looking at coming out probably around November, December,
Yes.
you're probably going to be okay because the rates probably will start to decrease
Wow.
at that time.
Yeah.
But again, it's an all market thing. The rates will never go down to 2%, 1.9%.
Eventually, maybe.
I can't see it at all. We're very lucky to have that.
Yeah.
If we're sitting at, maybe in the 3%,
I
I
was
think that would
thinking
be
that.
quite nice.
I was thinking
But
that.
I would say probably take another year or
Yeah,
so
three
to get back.
3.5% will be another 12 months to 18 months. I'd say.
100%, I would say.
Because looking at the pattern,
Yeah.
RBA's meetings are not every month next year.
Yeah.
So there's no chance in the world that you can expect every month a 0.25%
Yeah.
reduction in the
Correct.
rate.
Exactly.
So you're looking at least say Feb, and then 2 months later there'll be another meeting. So the pace where they will be reducing the interest rate,
Yeah.
unless of course there's external pressure on them, and that they come down. Each meeting they do a bigger chunk of a reduction. That's a different story. But if you look at 0.25%, maybe 5 or 4 rate
Yeah.
cuts next year.
I would say, yeah, that's what I was thinking in my head. I would prospect about 4 to 5
Yeah,
cuts next
exactly.
year. Probably won't reach the 4th or 5th probably
Exactly.
towards the end of next
Yeah,
year.
exactly.
But if at the end of the day, whatever can help, I guess it's going to
I
help.
suppose,
the market.
it would certainly bring
Yeah.
more competition in the market. However, my personal view is for the market to boom, if anyone's thinking that 0.25% first cut will increase, and we hear this all the time from some vendors that even the ones who are on the market, that's fine, I don't have to sell. I'll wait for Jan, let's take it off. Let's go in Jan, let's go in Feb, there'll be interest rate drop, and then they stop. And I ask them a question, what do you think would happen after that? Market will boom based on what?
Correct.
Based on what? Because you have to look at two options. Can you control more listings coming on the market? Now, don't worry about external interest rate cuts. You look at one thing. The time you go back on the market again, what are you going to save and make?
Correct.
Right? Let's say, for example, you have to wait for 6 months or 4 months by the time you go back on the market, hoping that there's a boom, right? And then hoping that there's not many properties in your competition. And then hoping there's plenty of buyers out there, because the market absorbs buyers every month, right? And then some type of properties that we're talking about, they're mainly $1.2, $1.4 million in Point Cook.
Correct.
You don't have plenty of buyers out there for those kind of houses.
Exactly. Yeah.
Selective group of buyers who are looking at upgrading, and they're the ones who would actually take their time to negotiate or find the right home. And if you were to wait that long, and then you wait till Feb, 0.25% only may not make a difference. For that boom to happen, you would have to have absorption rate of properties increasing.
Correct.
That would mean the stock levels have to be lower, or at least at par with the demand, to be able to have absorption. If you still have that much stock and buyer level doesn't increase, then absorption will still be slower. So by the time things catch up, it'll take March or April or even May next year, where you could start seeing some sort of improvement in buyer sentiments or fear of missing out.
So would you say that, in your opinion, obviously you being in the industry, when interest rates start cutting, do you believe that the price of the properties will increase?
Not straight away. That's my personal view.
Yeah.
But again, there's a caveat to that. Number one thing is for the prices to increase, the absorption has to increase. Buyers only jump in, prices always go up when a listing gets sold for relatively higher price than what it's worth. And what is it worth? It's three different prices: agent price, vendor price, market price.
Exactly.
And then the price it gets sold at as well. Now, if it gets sold above market, that could potentially be a number which is in someone's mind that that's property circa around there. We always have an approximate figure. But when things sell above what we think it's worth, that's when buyers start to think, okay, well, now the market's going up. More buyers will start jumping in. The fear of paying more would bring a fear of missing out.
Yeah.
It's actually not a fear of missing out in the western suburbs. It's more of a psychological factor where what if we have to pay more for the right house? This is the right house. Let's just pay a little bit more and secure it now. And then you get another phone call from buyers and you tell them that it's been under offer now. Then they'll jump in and go in and buy something else faster. Absorption starts to increase.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. There was a property we sold at Adventure Way. We had multiple offers on that house, but two offers were very strong. Now, one person was very close to getting it, emotionally connected. Second buyer was very close, but not as good as the highest offer. Just before we sold it, we still gave an opportunity to everyone, and the second highest actually then came above the best offer that we already had on hand. They got the property. The person who missed out by $10,000, $15,000